So glad you're here. This is what it takes to keep showing up in the conversations of the nature of reality. All right, so I'm going to be jumping around a little bit here as I've got a couple of different screens to attend to. Checking out chats and viewers. Okay, so let me get that off of there. All right, my friends. So a couple of housekeeping items to start with, and we can then attend to this beautiful exploration of the reality of our being. So if you are a Oasis member and you are joining through the link that you were provided with the Chrome browser, then you will see an opportunity there's a link or a button there to be able to join in the conversation, and you and I can bring you on screen and we can have a nice chat. If you are joining through YouTube and or Facebook, then you don't have that option, but you can chat, and I encourage you to please chat in questions, observations, thoughts as we go. And finally, if you're a member of the Oasis community, Satsang is obviously available to you as part of your membership. If you are visiting through YouTube or Facebook, there is a donation link in the description if you are called to help support Satsang. Satsang is simply Sat, which is truth, the essential truth of our being, irregardless of religions or cultures or societies. It is the fabric of reality. It's the fabric of consciousness. So Sat and then Sangha, to come together and to explore what the heck's going on here? What is this? What is this human spiritual experience? How does it actually work? What are the different dynamics? And how can we better know ourselves fully, the full dimensionality of our incredible human spiritual being, rather than just being lost in the humanity or the human part of the experience. So welcome to Satsang. All right. I encourage you today to chat. Hello, Mike. Good to see you here. Beautiful. Chat or your questions, or ask to join in, and I'll bring you on screen and we can talk. Your inquiries, your questions, the places where you find yourself getting a little bit stuck. You get to a certain place and you go, wait a minute, I need some more understanding of this certain dynamic of this wholeness of being that we're talking about. And then it helps that I know, what are the questions? What's the dialogue that would be the most helpful to everybody? Kathy, I'm almost home. We'll join again when home. Need 15 more minutes. No worry, Kathy. We'll be here. Perfect. Lovely. So, most people are not attending consciously, devotionally, consistently in these conversations about the nature of reality. I want to talk today about how wild it is that we are mostly living life completely upside down. What is true, we call fantasy. What is illusion, we call reality. I was on a walk yesterday here in Bali through the rice fields. And just contemplating the nature of reality. Who am I? What is consciousness? Am I who I think I am? What are the thoughts that are generated What is the substance of those thoughts? Do they have any reality? Just being with the reality of our being. And it just really struck me about how lost most humans are in their stories. And they're calling them real. In their self-blame, in their sense of I'm not worthy because I've got stuff to work on, because I'm working through some things and I feel ashamed of not yet being fixed, figured out, perfect. We compare ourselves to others and we look at their presentation and we say, I'll be worthy of love or validation when I achieve a certain level of success or achievement or goodness. But until then, I'm not. And these are all stories. These are all constructs of identity, of meaning that we have cobbled together over a lifetime, that we have learned. So, if you're in this work, if you're on this journey, if you attend to your meditations and practices and studies, you recognize that there is an essential nature of being prior to and beyond mind. What do I mean by that? Before your mind generates beliefs, opinions, judgments, thoughts that color your experience, that shape your experience, before your mind generates the ideas and thoughts and beliefs that shape your experience, you exist. There is a purity of being. It is our divine nature. And we come to find that that divine nature, that essential nature of our being, the unwavering, truest nature of our being is, we can call it a variety of things. We tend to call it love, peace, happiness, an equanimity of grace. That is the most stable thing you've got going. It doesn't feel stable because we keep veiling that truth with our mind, with our narratives, with our beliefs. But that essence of being, the essential being, is the most stable truth about you. And yet that singular truth, the consciousness that you are, the consciousness of pure awareness, witnessing everything, every thought, every belief, every judgment, every opinion, every story that comes and goes and changes and morphs and thinks this, then thinks that, and feels this, and then feels that. All of that ever-changing transience of the personal self is happening within the presence of a stable, unwavering peace of awareness, consciousness. That's what you and I are. That's the most stable thing you've got going. It's the truest thing about you. And yet, it is the thing that we feel is so fantastical that we can't quite grasp, that is hard to comprehend. That's like, no, that can't be. That's not my experience. My experience is not peace. So that's a peace that is distant, far away, hard to achieve. I have to create it. I don't know how to create it. And of course, we don't create it. It already exists. But it seems so almost otherworldly and impossible and a fantasy. And yet, that is the truth of your being. Meanwhile, we have these stories about who we are that were constructed by a young mind that couldn't make sense of the world, and so took every event and tried to cobble together a sense of meaning out of it. So we're basically living a 5, 7, 10-year-old, 14-year-olds, 3-year-olds interpretation of life. And we're calling that real. A mind-generated construct of identity cobbled together over lifetime because of mom, dad, school, bullies, media, society, consumerism, comparing, that has been influenced by a profoundly asleep society. That sense of reality, that sense of self, we take that as real because we feel it, because we feel those thoughts, we feel those beliefs, we feel the fear, the doubt, the uncertainty, the emptiness. And because we feel it, we believe that that is true. We're living upside down. This self that we are dreaming, that we are constantly constructing and reconstructing and propagating and promulgating and reinforcing over and over and over and over again. That dream of self, I call it a dream of self because it is mind constructed. We call it real and we suffer it. And the very truth of our being, the most stable, beautiful, essential truth of our being is largely unknown. So we attend to studies and practices with commitment, with devotion, with patience, because it takes a long time to wake up out of a dream. You don't just, wake up. If you've been in a deep, 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 deep dream, you may wake up for a second. A glimmer of reality, a glimmer of peace, a glimmer of equanimity. But just like waking up from a deep dream, you wake up, oh, wow. Back into the mind's stories. And so you meditate again, you study again, you practice again, and you wake up and you realize, oh, wow, this peace, this is actually me. It's not a passing experience. This is me. This is the I, the pure I am. Before I am unworthy, I am afraid, I am not worthy of love until I succeed. I am unsafe. I am small, fragile, insignificant, worthless, etc. Before any of those stories, I am. You simply are consciousness. Okay, so what questions does this bring up? What queries, what insights, what inspirations? I'm jumping around here on the screen, seeing. It's fascinating, isn't it? Who you think you are is not real. Hence the phrase, you are not who you think you are. Who you think you are is called ego. Ego is activity of mind. It's not an actual thing. Who you truly are is the self that is undisturbed by the activity of mind. The sky undisturbed by the weather. The movie screen undisturbed by the movies the mind plays upon it. The movie isn't what's going on around you. The movie is your own mind projecting its opinions, beliefs, judgments, ideas about what is going on around you. That's the movie. And consciousness is the screen. And consciousness allows your mind to play whatever movie it plays. But consciousness doesn't suffer the movie playing upon it. Consciousness does not suffer the movie playing upon it. If you play a movie of a forest fire, the screen will not burn. Okay, Kathy. Yeah, I just got back, missed your intro and the question. I'll repeat it real quickly because I've been repeating it to myself for years. This is what it takes. Repeat, 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 repeat. Until we wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. The gist of it, Kathy, is we're living life upside down. The most stable truth of who you actually are is the consciousness of being beyond mind. The essential nature of your being, my being, of all of us. The unwavering grace of being that we typically don't know because we're lost in the mind's illusions. We're lost in the dreams of self that are being constructed by and promulgated by the mind. We're lost in the dream of self that we're telling ourselves, that the mind tells us. And that keeps us from knowing the essential truth of our being. And we call this truth enlightenment. It's like it's this world. It's like this unattainable thing, this distant thing that's only for certain people, and you got to sit in a cave for 20 years, and it's so far away, and I don't know how to get there, and is it even really real? And we question it, and it's the most real. It's the only real thing about you. The only stable essence of our being is the grace of love, the grace of our being. Grace means truth. That's what's stable, and yet we discount it because we've never been pointed to it typically in our lives. And the thing that we call real is complete activity of mind. Also called conditioning and programming, because Dad taught me that I'm only worthy when I do well in school or sports or whatever. Or he taught me that you're good, but you could be better and you need to be better. And the better you are, the more you'll be loved. The better you are, the more you'll be loved. The better you are, the more you'll be loved. So we get that message. And Mom was busy and distant or drinking or unavailable or whatever, or was a great mom, but totally emotionally unavailable, didn't know how to open the heart. And so we learned, I'm not worthy of being acknowledged. I'm not worthy of having an open heart presented to me. And as a child, we take that on and we think it's us. The problem's with us, because I don't want the problem to be with mom. I need to think mom's a good, stable feature in my life. So we take all of these experiences with a young, immature mind and we cobble together an identity called an ego. And we call that real. We suffer it as if it's real. It's not. And the reality of our being is, we call that fantastical. We can't even hardly imagine it. So we're living completely upside down. So that's the premise we're working with today. All right. Yeah. So Kathy says, I get caught up in the movie. Yes, the movie gets caught up in itself. So this is why we have the activities, the meditations in the Beyond the Noise course, for learning how to pull back and notice the I that gets lost in the movie is not the I am. The I that gets lost in the movie is the individual sense of self. The story gets lost in the story. The movie gets lost in itself, if that makes sense. I get lost in the movie is identifying with the one who could ever get lost. Consciousness cannot get lost. It gets veiled by the mind, but when we pull out of the mind, when we pull back and recognize, here's the question, what is aware of getting lost in the movie? If I get lost in the movie, what is aware of that? What is aware of that? I'm going to jump over here. On YouTube, Paul, 4-path model of meditation is called predictive processing. We don't experience the world as it is, but as we predict it to be. Yeah, Paul's pointing to it. We actually don't experience the world as it is. We experience the world as our mind tells us it is, either predictive or the way we thought it was. We don't typically, when we're suffering, we're not suffering the world. We're suffering our mind. We're suffering our judgments, opinions, thoughts, and beliefs. Mike says, I wonder about people lost in their own reality. There are so many. Yeah. Well, it's not even their own reality. It's their own illusion. Lost in their own story. It's not reality. It's story. They believe it's all real. Right. I'm happy with the awareness, but notice so many lost in the story. The ratio isn't even close. And I'm lost a lot too. Absolutely. Yeah. The mind is strong. The habit of mind and projection is strong. But if you don't have a practice, it starts to give you some direct experience of an unwavering grace, peace that is always present, just waiting for you to bring your awareness back to it, waiting for you to bring your awareness back to it. And whether you feel that is within or the wholeness of being, when you pop out of this small illusion of self into your grandness, no matter how you identify that sense of self, where you identify it, when you recognize that, if you don't have that recognition, if you don't have any sense of that direct experience, all you've got is your story. All you've got is trying to get your story to behave, trying to get your story to be better, trying to get rid of, stop any disparaging thoughts, feelings, beliefs. Oh, there they are again. Oh, as long as they are present, I'm not free. In this work, we recognize that even when they are present, you are free. You are free to witness the activity of your own mind. And we learn how to name it. Wow, check out my mind. Check out my illusion. Check out my dream. Check out my projections. Check out my constructs. And what's aware of them? The sky is aware of the weather. Consciousness, awareness is aware of everything that comes and goes. Every thought, every feeling, every belief, every story, every dream appears and disappears within the presence of peaceful awareness. And I am that. And Mike, yes, it can be a wild thing to look around and recognize, as you say, it's not even close. The general state of humanity is to be completely lost in all of the narratives that are built upon our conditioning and programming and culture and society and families and beliefs. We've cobbled together what we call reality, and it's all made up. We create our reality. The mind creates reality out of conditioning and programming. We create our reality, and the mind creates reality typically out of conditioning and programming. What it has learned, what it believes. Consciousness creates the world out of love. The mind applies conditioning to the events to determine what's happening. Consciousness applies, if you will, love, acceptance, peace, and is free of the mind's, as the gentleman in YouTube was saying, the predictive mind. Consciousness is free of that. It's not that it doesn't happen. It's just that consciousness notices it happening and says, wow, check that out. Wow, look at the dream. It's like lucid dreaming. Okay. Kathy, our world is set up to not be in the I am state and to live in the dream. Yeah, well, as Krishnamurti said, it is not a measure of one's well-being to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. It is not a measure of one's well-being to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Of course, the world is set up that way because it's set up by the dream state itself. The egos, all the egoic identities are setting up a world to satisfy the needs of a sense of emptiness, a sense of unworthiness, a sense of not being whole. When we're disconnected from our divinity, we will feel not enough. And then we will create a world that tries to fulfill that emptiness, that feeling of not enough. So yeah, we live in a world that is dedicated to the illusion of separation. And we're all typically, most people are chasing the experience of happiness, the experience of peace, the experience of love in a constantly changing world that cannot reliably and realistically provide what we are seeking. The only place it can consistently and with incredible equanimity provide all that we are seeking is the recognition of who and what we already are. Rupert Spira has written the book, You Are the Happiness That You Seek. Stable, whole, ever present. Just as the sky is undeterred by a hurricane, the essence of our being, the awareness of being, can remain stable and loving and open and allowing for even our deepest old fears and pains, our childhood wounds to arise and be met with love. This is what self-love is, to be met with love. We meditate and find that essential nature of love that we are, so we can come to rest as that. And then we can allow all of our conditioning and programming and traumas and stories and wounds to arise into that beautiful truth of love. And that is how the light shines into the darkness and dispels the darkness. Pranjal, there are a lot of, see, I used to be able to pretend I could read without my glasses. There are a lot of parts of my life where understanding this truth works fantastically. However, in some parts, the story is so strong that I understand a lot of what you teach as a theory. My mind takes over and freezes my practice. How do I open that? Time and patience, my friend. Devotion and time and patience and practice. Truly. And repeating to yourself what is happening in those moments, to name it, what's happening. My mind takes over and freezes my practice. So my mind takes over and clouds the reality of my being. The mind takes over with its fears, its doubts, its stories, and says, look, screw your practices. Screw this other stuff. I need to be taken care of right now. I'm afraid. I need to be loved. I need to get this right. And we can just keep staying with the practice of inquiring, what is happening? Whose voice is that? I was working with a woman last night who we just kept identifying. She just kept blaming and shaming herself for not being all figured out yet. A 40-year-old woman. And we kept identifying, that's your mother's voice. That's your mother's voice. That's your mother's voice. Her mom taught her, get over it. You don't have any right to feel pain. You don't have any right to complain. You don't have any right to feel pain. And her father was like an angry drunkard. And, and she was basically saying, you don't bother us with your pain. Don't bother us with your hurt. Get over it. So she was shaming her for her very real pain. So she does that to herself now. And now she can start to look at it and go, holy shit, that's my mom's voice. That's my mom's voice. There it is again. And I've taken that on as my own voice. So she starts to see what's going on. She starts to see, oh, what's happening here? My mind is projecting stories that are veiling the divine nature of my truth. And who am I really? Who am I really? What is the unwavering sense of self that I'm starting to recognize is there? Even when I get lost, even when there's getting lost in the content of experience, behind that, there's an awareness of being. So that's how you do it, Pranjal. You keep naming what's happening. You keep inquiring about truth. You keep seeing how much you're believing in your own stories. And maybe start to marvel at it. I laugh a lot. Not as much anymore, but I used to have to just laugh a lot. sometimes even at my own pain. And then I would love my own pain and feel, oh, such compassion. Oh, of course I'm lost in my story. Look at my upbringing. Look at all the crap I was fed. Look at all the illusions that I was raised in. Oh my God, of course I'm lost. Of course I feel lost. So I would feel compassion. I would marvel at it and go, wow, check out my shit. Wow, there it is again. This is a stunning. And you do that again and again and again and again. How do you wake up? Hey, 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 hey. What's real? Are your thoughts real? Where do they come from? Whose voice is that? Yeah. Okay, let me jump over here. Yeah, Paul, you're right on. We don't see the world through our eye sockets. We don't hear the world through our ear canals. These all feed information into our brains, which conjure our experience of the world from scratch. Totally, 100% spot on. It's astounding. We're just taking in data points, or not even data points. We're just taking in the movement of life. And we feed that into a database. We feed it into a database. We ask the mind, we ask the egoic structure, how should I feel about this? How should I think about this? How should I interpret this? What should I make of this? What does this mean? And the database goes, let me check on everything we have learned from a whole bunch of sources that had no idea what's going on, from all these sources totally lost in the illusion, in the dream of the personal self. All of that input, all that data, all of that way of filtering reality, we take in the world and we give it to that database and go, how should I feel about this? That's crazy. That is crazy. To ask a mind-generated construct that has been constructed out of an immature mind fed by a society and a world completely lost in illusion. And to take that database and use it as our main processing of life is crazy. When we learn to trust, we call it the heart. The heart is just a place we go to be less in the mind. But we can call it like a portal. Some people go to the heart to feel into their divinity, their grace, their peace. Some people tend to go outward and pop out of the bubble of the illusion, the small illusion of self, into the vast, boundless consciousness of being. However you do it, you just start to practice not believing your own stories, because you know where they come from now. You know that there's no basis in reality from them. They're not coming from God. They're not coming from truth. They're coming from mind that is veiling truth and has been for a long time. So yeah, Paul, you're spot on. We don't actually see the world as it is. We see the world as we name it, as we narrate it. And once we can see that, we can start to notice it and pull back and be more interested in the witness of that activity than the activity itself. Start to be more interested in the witness of your mind than in your mind. Your mind is not an authority of truth. Your mind is a database of conditioning for the most part, at least in the asleep mind. Yeah, thank you, Paul. Like when we dream, only that in waking consciousness, they're at least trying to match what they whip up in our experience to what might actually be going on in the world outside of our skulls. Yeah. It's just, when you're asleep in a dream, when you fall asleep at night and you fall into a dream, the dream seems absolutely real and you have no awareness of the head laying on the pillow. And you're being chased by a tiger in the dream, and that is reality, and you feel the fear. And in this work, we're in the dream talking about the dream. We're in the dream saying, this tiger that's chasing you, that's all mind. No, it feels so real. Yeah, I know, because dreams feel really, really real when you don't know that you're dreaming. But if you can start to lucid dream and recognize, oh my God, I'm dreaming, then you start to bring in the awareness of the head laying on the pillow. You're like, oh, I'm actually in bed with my head on a pillow dreaming. And the dream loses its power. It's like being in a movie theater and being so engrossed in a scary movie and being so lost in the movie that you forget you're in a movie theater. And what if you were feeling such dread and terror and it got to the point where you just didn't want to feel this kind of fear anymore? And how do I get out of the fear? Oh my God, the person's about to open the door and the killer's on the other side of the door and they've got chainsaws and oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and I don't want to feel this anymore. All you would have to do is stop and look around and go, oh, that's right. I'm in a movie theater. Oh, this is a movie. And what would happen to the fear? Gone. See, your mind is projecting stories upon the screen of consciousness. And the screen of consciousness is free and at peace. This is the work. This is the practice. To remember that, to come to that again and again and again and again and again for whatever time it takes. Typically, for a lot of people, 5 to 10 years. To really abide the truth of our being and no longer be victims of and swayed by and hooked by the illusions of our mind. Okay. Kathy, the living beyond the noise message regarding our database really resonated with me. Yeah, thank you. Right, that's a big one. That's a big one. The course, for those of you on YouTube who don't maybe know about the course, the Living Beyond the Noise course is a really affordable and accessible course that I spent a couple of years developing, and it just takes you through the entire practice of waking up to and as what you really are. And there's a section in that talks about this database and that we're relying on a database of illusion in order to tell us what we call the reality of life. It's totally upside down. We're living completely upside down. And we wonder why we suffer and struggle. Because we're believing our mom and our dad and our second grade teacher and Kellogg's cereal sellers and media and Facebook and social media, everyone's projections of themselves. We're believing all of this as if it's reality. There's only one real reality, and that is the grace of love. That we cloud, that we pollute with our stories, with our mind. Ram Dass teaches our mind is our karma. Karma is that which veils truth. Karma is that which is still feels disconnected from truth. So our mind is our karma. Our mind is what veils truth. You're not your mind. You're not your thoughts. You're not who you think you are. You're just not. And the ego will fight. The ego will say, it's not happening fast enough. I just need to have better thoughts. I just need to stop worrying so much. I just need to have more positive thoughts. There's another section in the Beyond the Noise course about mental gymnastics that we use to get back to peace. Oh, everything happens for a reason. I need to trust that everything happens for a reason. Therefore, I can be at peace with what's happening in front of me. That is a mental story to help us feel better. When you realize yourself to be that which is unwavering and indestructible, no matter what's happening, that's true peace. It's called allowing. True allowing is not an activity of mind. It's not a thing we do because we choose to allow. True allowing is the very nature of our being. The movie screen allows whatever movie plays upon it. It's not threatened. The sky allows whatever weather moves in and out of its awareness, its presence. It's not threatened. Consciousness, unveiled by mind, allows all manner of personal experience. And it gives us such freedom, like we can experience true grief, true sadness. We can experience our childhood pain and love it. This is how the phrase, love your pain, love your suffering. How do I do that? By coming to rest as the love, as consciousness, as awareness, as allowing. So we can invite our childhood pain into the presence of loving awareness. That's the last section of the Living Beyond the Noise course, Module 10. Is the practice of coming to rest in our true grace and inviting our childhood pain and fear into the presence of true love that our parents couldn't give us because they didn't know how. That's all the pain wants. That's all the wounding wants, is to be healed by the light of divine love. So I hope this is helpful. It's just dialogue. It's just conversation. It's just exploration of the nature of reality. Self-inquiry. So many of you have heard this, but we'll offer it again here. What a beautiful inquiry when you sit. Is to imagine. What if sitting here in this chair or on this cushion, in this moment, right now, in this meditation, ask yourself, imagine if I had no stories, if I had no narrative about who I am I worthy, am I not? Imagine if I had no mom, dad, school. Imagine if all my previous experience vanished in one moment, just like that. And we're not imagining how would I live. That's not the question. The question is, in this moment, in this meditation, if all of my stories, if all of my projections, if all of my beliefs, judgments, opinions, stories were gone, would I disappear? Would I cease to exist? Would I disappear? Would there no longer be anything here sitting on this cushion? And we realized, no, I wouldn't. I can imagine everything going away, even for 3 seconds. If it just magically disappeared, something would still exist here, sitting on this on this cushion. And that something is called pure consciousness, awareness. Before stories of man, woman, success, failure, I am a mother, I am a father. Am I a good mother? Am I a good father? I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a teacher, I'm a student. Am I a good student? Am I a good teacher? Am I a good daughter? Before all those opinions and judgments of the mind, I am. As Ram Dass says, let the opinions and the judgments of the mind be opinions and judgments of the mind. And you exist beyond all of that. In the Living Beyond the Noise course, there's a meditation that I think I call it the powerful truth of being. And it's about sitting and allowing yourself to put your mind outside, put it down, all thoughts about the past and the future, just to put them down for a little bit and explore what is present when you're not, as who was it here? Paul. Yeah, as Paul was saying, you're not prognosticating or projecting or making up stories about anything. If you put the mind down completely for just a little bit and explore, what is the nature of your identity? Does it have a gender? A gender is a temporary thing in this temporary human experience. Beyond that, transcendent of that, do you have a gender? Do you come and go? It's a beautiful, long meditation that I actually learned initially from Muji and then modified a little bit. Because that's what we do. We bring our voice, our soulful way of being, our flavor, into how to express and share these divine truths. So, if you're a student of the Oasis, if you're a student of the Living Beyond the Noise course, there is that beautiful meditation, the powerful truth of being. All right, my friends. So, any other questions, reflections? Dialogues that would be valuable to ask a question and to engage in a little back and forth of exploration. This is what it takes. To come to rest as who or what you really are, beyond the dream of self being constructed in the mind. You are not who you think you are. You're just not that person. And to remember, yeah, we're living mostly upside down, backwards, inside out. Actually, we're living typically from the outside in, and it's time to start living from the inside out. Living as who you really are, experiencing a life of challenges or difficulties and successes and failures and loveliness and ugliness and tragedy and wonderment. To live all of that rested in your own grace. That's freedom. But we get lost in our own narratives, our own constructs, our own conditioning and programming, believing it's reality. It's not. It's just the mind projecting what it has learned from unreliable sources. If you are not yet a student of the Living Beyond the Noise course, I highly recommend. Follow the link in the description. Check it out. It is a comprehensive, step-by-step, beautiful course that takes you through the questions, the inquiries, the meditations. It talks all about ego resistance, how the ego is going to resist. How do we get so lost? How do we get found again? And it's not a course that's going to necessarily give you a full awakening of as who you really are. It very well may. But what it is going to do is it's going to put you on a solid path that leads through and to truth, through illusion and to truth. And then more truth, and then more, and then more, and then more. It puts you on the path of knowing truth. in all the ways that it's going to reveal itself and unfold over time. For me, it's the ultimate freedom. I don't know any more valuable endeavor than to know thyself, truly, fully, wholly, divinely. We are human spiritual beings, and most are completely lost in the body, mind, ego experience. And most are completely disconnected from their true self, the divine self. And that's why we have the issues that we have in the world. And that's changing. Over the next number of years, it's going to be really difficult as this awakening burgeons, blossoms. And the ego mind, the ego body of the collective ego is going to fight back hard because it's going to feel threatened, because it's going to say, wait, how am I going to keep getting all my goodies? How am I going to keep getting all of my addictions and distractions and stories? You're going to take away all my stories, all my illusions? The hell with that. So it's what we do in our own personal journey. We start to awaken the truth of our being, and our ego snaps, gets very active and says, wait, what are you doing? We were fine. And you're like, no, we weren't fine. And the ego says, yeah, well, we were fine enough. We were working on it. We were doing our best. And now you're going to just surrender and open into an allowing. Whoa, the ego really doesn't like that. Okay, Paul here. The first stage of awakening is most likely acknowledgement and awareness. How does one release those prior experiences that obscure truth? Yeah, right? It's a conundrum, right, Paul? It's a conundrum. It's like, okay, wait, the truth is beyond mind, and yet the mind is so powerful that it keeps dominating with its illusions and stories. So there's the direct path and the progressive path. The progressive path says, I will know my truth when all my mind's illusions are vanquished. Or a lot of them, or most of them, or the predominance of them are vanquished. Then I will start to know truth. The direct path, which is what we're pursuing here, says, no, let's be reasonable about this. Is there a you beyond your mind? Can you, through your meditations, through your practices, through your studies, start to recognize a you that is present even when your mind is totally active? I'm looking out the window right now at a cloudy sky here in Bali, but I know that there's a blue sky on the other side of that sky. I'm not deluded into thinking that the sky has gone away. I know it's there, even though all I can see is clouds. So the direct path says, abide the sky, abide the truth, abide what you know to be true, even when the mind is clouding that truth. That's the practice. And little by little, you'll start to see the veiling for what it is, and it will lose its power. Look at one of my other videos. An unbelieved thought will lose its power over time. When you start naming the falsehood as the falsehood, when you start to name the illusion as the illusion, it starts to lose its power. This is like the Wizard of Oz, the almighty wizard. That's the ego. so dominant, so threatening, so controlling. I've got to follow its directives. I've got to pay attention. It's very dominating. And then you pull back the curtain and you see what's really going on. And you're like, oh my God, just a little scared guy pulling levers and pushing buttons. We start to see our own illusions as constructs, conditioning, programming, learned behaviors, learned thoughts. They have no substance. They only have power when we give them power. Yeah, so Paul said the first stage of awakening is the acknowledgement and awareness. Yeah, the first stage is to start to acknowledge that, start to make some separation, start to get some understanding of this thing that you call you. What's that made up of? Is it real? When you die, is that the end of you? When your story dies, what exists? And in that essence of being that was before birth and after death, does it go away during this lifetime, or does it just get veiled by the dream of the personal self until you start to see the dream for what it is, and then you start to recognize, oh, there's a reality beyond the dream. So yeah, it starts with education. It starts with knowledge. It starts with sharing these wisdoms, the truth of the reality of being, so that we can start to ponder and contemplate and marinate on these revelations, if you will, and marvel at how it all plays out. Kathy, let's see. Pranjal, thank you, Chess. I have a question. When I try to tell my mind to leave the room, it gets louder at times. Yes, and what is aware of that? And maybe don't tell it to leave the room. The sky doesn't need to tell the weather to go away. When you tell it to leave the room, you're actually giving it some power and authority, as if it has any substance. Who's the one that would need the mind to leave the room? The mind. So yes, it gets louder when you tell it to leave the room. It says, no, but I'm you. This is crazy. You're telling me to leave the room, but I keep you safe. I tell you what to do. I make sure you don't screw up. I make sure you do the right thing so you can stay lovable. I'm the one who directs your life. You can just laugh, start to laugh at it. That's what I would do. Just start to laugh at it. Go, wow, what an illusion. You think you're the authority on love, on reality, mind? You're a whole bunch of, you're my dad's voice, you're my mom's voice, you're the voice of all these experiences of media, of culture. That's what you are. You have no authority or grasp of reality. So you don't have to leave the room. Just sit there and yammer away. I'm just not going to listen to you any longer. But when you say you've got to go so that I can be at peace, that's like those skies saying to the weather, you've got to go so that I can be at peace. Or the movie screen saying to the movie, you have to stop playing this shitty movie so that I can be at peace. You are peace, my friend. You are the peaceful presence of awareness, noticing the narrative, the conditioning of your own mind. I'm talking about the powerful truth meditation. Yeah, right. So when I try to tell my mind to leave the room, I see what you're saying. Yeah, when you say I'm going to put my mind outside, it's an activity of imagination. You're not actually making the mind. You're just imagining. What if I put my mind outside? What would that experience be like? What if I just wasn't playing with future and past? It's a power of imagination. We imagine all sorts of things and we feel them when we imagine them. If I said, imagine getting up on stage in front of 1,000 people with a presentation and going totally blank and totally forgetting what you were going to say and standing there like a doofus with 1,000 people staring at you, and it's a TED talk and you're being recorded, and this is, important, and you've completely blanked. You don't remember what you're supposed to say. How would that feel? Imagine how that would feel. You could imagine that maybe and start to go, oh God, oh, oof, oh, that would, oh. So you can imagine, what if your mind just took a break? And maybe this will help, Pranjal. You're not telling your mind you have to go away forever. You're just saying, look, can you just take a break for 5 minutes? Because I want to play with this meditation. Don't worry. I can, the mind, just tell the mind, look, when I'm done, you can come back. If you want to come back when I'm done, you can come back. I'm just asking you for a few minutes just to work with me here. Give me a little break. Yeah. Mike, I guess I struggle with the language. If so many people are stuck in the illusion, isn't it their reality? No, it's their illusion. It's not their reality. It's their illusion. Is a dream a reality? When you're having a dream of night, is it reality? Yes, you are really having a dream, but is the dream reality? When you're looking at a mirage and it's showing you a palm tree and water, is that reality? No, the mirage is real. There is really a thing called a mirage happening. But what the mirage is presenting to you is not real. So you can think of it this way, Mike. It's not their reality, but it is their experience. It's not their reality, but it is their experience. Yeah. Is ignorance bliss? I don't know. Not for me. Ignorance was hell. Because it couldn't hold. Because ignorance needs to hold on to creating the world. And if we're ignorant of our truth, then we are stuck in the egoic rat race of seeking, resisting, or clinging. I've got to seek all good experiences and seek people to be the right way and make sure that everyone behaves right and that life behaves right. I got to seek that. And I've got to resist anything that is happening that wants to interrupt my peace. Like I'm here in this new villa and these rice fields, and I just noticed 2 days ago they're going to build a new villa about a rice field and a half away. That's going to be construction for a while. I could suffer that because of what I make up about that, or I could allow, okay, now that's happening. So is ignorance bliss? No, ignorance of our true reality means that all we have is an egoic self that needs to manage life constantly. And it's either seeking, or it's resisting what's happening, or it needs to get it all in line and order. And then it's got to cling to what's happening and keep it from changing. for me, that ain't bliss. That's a struggle. Yeah. Kathy, I often use your analogy of my ego being a guest in my home and just walking by and not responding to their words. That has been so helpful. Yeah, right. The unruly house guest sitting on your couch waiting for you to get up every morning. Hey, you're up. Good. Welcome. I just wanted to remind you, don't make any mistakes today, because remember, making mistakes will get you abandoned. Making mistakes will make people leave you. You can't make mistakes. You can't be flawed in any way. So don't screw up out there. All right. Have a good day. Enjoy. So you just, you start to notice that you don't need to sit down and argue with that voice, because it's just going to argue its point. You're going to argue your point. It's going to argue its point. And so you just start to walk by and go, yeah, look, I know you're here. But then there will be a third stage of that, which is where you actually do come back and sit on the couch and speak to that voice, not in arguing with it, not in trying to make it wrong or making it understand anything differently. But you do sit down and you say, you seem to be in a lot of pain. You want to tell me about that? Where did this come from? How can I help? Yeah. Mike, that makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome, Mike. This is why we come to Satsang, to have conversations that help us to wake up from the dream of self, to see the reality of life, to see the reality of consciousness, and to recognize how our own mind is our own karma. Our own mind veils the knowing of God. Of grace, of truth. And this is why I'm writing the book that I'm writing. Most people have no roadmap. Now there's more and more teachers and guidance and conversations and communities. But boy, the ego fights back, and we really need the support of consistency and a devotion. Maybe I'll end with that here today. What is your devotion? If you're here in satsang, there's a very good chance your devotion is to truth. Your devotion is to knowing and abiding truth and knowing the freedom of abiding what you already are. And it'll keep you asking the questions, it'll keep you inquiring, it'll keep you exploring, it'll keep you in the conversations and the studies and the practices that little by little get you up the mountain. You know, you don't look at the summit of a mountain and just say, oh, I want to be there, and you're there. You know, you gotta walk the path, typically. So good for you for being on the path. It's beautiful. Okay. Again, for anyone who's not yet availed themselves to the course, I've priced it like ridiculously low to make it available to everyone while still bringing in the income that has helped produce a course like this, which again, it took a couple of years of love and devotion and care to create this body of work. So check it out. I think you'll find value there. I know that so many have. And it's it's a study course. It gives you something to sink your teeth into, living beyond the noise. A study course of how to walk this path of knowing your full dimensionality, of knowing thyself fully. So blessings, my friends. Be well. Satsang again in 2 weeks. It'll be Sunday next time, and then Wednesday again, and then Sunday. Thank you for your devotion, for your love, for your courage, your grace. Thank you. Let's see here. Any last thoughts or comments? Mike, starting the course now. Ali, thank you. Thank you, Ali. Yeah, thank you for your question the other day. And by the way, for those who are in the course, leave your comments, ask your questions. It encourages others. It really does. When somebody's there, they don't feel so alone. They see that somebody else is also in the study. They see that somebody else is either gaining some traction and getting a little bit of value and insight, or they're seeing that somebody else also has a question. And I tend to go through, a couple of times a week, and I answer questions. So leave your comments with each individual lesson, and let's build this community of people helping walk each other home. So enjoy, Mike. Enjoy the course and the studies, and keep coming back to these conversations. This is what it takes to wake up to the beautiful reality of who you already are. All right. Much love, my friends. I'll see you in a few weeks. Blessings.